Hello there, welcome back to my world of stuff. It's Sunday afternoon. Here's a video I wasn't expecting to be doing today, but I felt I wanted to record something just to express my sadness at the news of the passing of comedy actor Matthew Perry, who of course played Chandler Bing in Friends, which is of course one of the most popular and successful TV series, let alone comedy series of all time. I heard the news early this morning actually. Going to bed after a TV binging session last night. I always check out the news headlines, and the news was just breaking that there were reports that he'd passed away. And it was, of course, by the time I got up this morning, it was confirmed and there were more details available. It's very sad. I was a huge fan of Friends. I came on board, I think, by about season 2 or 3, and then I was able to catch up in the previous seasons, and it just became a joy. I've always liked those TV series with ensemble casts of likeable people that you enjoy spending time with. And I think Friends was very aptly named because these people became your friends. You followed their silly adventures and their exploits and their navigations of their 20s as they edged towards becoming proper fully formed adults, if they ever did. And it was just such a fun series to watch in the classic tradition of the best American sitcoms. It was fast and funny and full of jokes and puns, and there were no gaps. It just got on with it. It was a great show, and I know that over the years it's become a show which is incredibly rewatchable. I know of people who watch it almost on a loop because it is feel-good television, and because it's now, I suppose, a historical piece. In fact, I think next year will be the 30th anniversary since its debut, and the world has changed. TV has changed, comedy has changed, and now we've lost first major member of the cast of 6, and it's very sad, particularly in the case of Matthew Perry, because he didn't have an easy time of it. His life wasn't particularly easy. He actually brought out a book last year, which was this book, which is called Friends, Lovers and the Big Terrible Thing, and he did a publicity tour for it, and I picked this up, and to my shame, it sat on my shelf. It's been one of the to-read books, and just in the last fortnight, as I've gone through a few books on my shelf, I thought I'm going to get around to reading that. I'm not in the mood now. It sort of seems it's not the right time to read the life story of a man who's just passed away, so I'm afraid it's going to go back on the shelf a little bit, and I'll probably dig it out next year. So it was quite a shock, because Chandler was probably the funniest of the Friends group. His way with sarcasm and his catchphrase, one of his catchphrases, I suppose, "Could you be more?" Insert here. And that's become part of the sort of lexicon of the way people address each other these days. But yeah, it's very sad that he couldn't find sort of peace. And I've sort of followed from a distance his addictions and his troubles throughout his career. And even when he was making Friends, I think he admitted at one point that he had no memory of 3 seasons because he was addicted to painkillers. And so it's very sad that he couldn't really enjoy his fame and fortune. And he's done a few other things. He's done a few films. He starred in a short-lived remake of The Odd Couple, Neil Simon's classic. I think it ran for about 3 series, but it was never a massive hit. But ultimately, I think it's a shame that he was brought down by his addictions. Now, I think as far as his passing is concerned, we don't know the full details, but it seems that he was found unresponsive in the hot tub at his home in the Pacific Palisades in Los Angeles. I've read that there were no drugs or anything found in the area, so it could well be that he had I think the suspicion is he had a massive heart attack or cardiac arrest. Of course, we'll find out more in the days to come. But ultimately, I just want to pay tribute to somebody whose performances I always enjoyed. There was great chemistry with him and the rest of the cast, but particularly Matt LeBlanc, who of course played Joey Tribbiani, who was his flatmate throughout a lot of the series. And it's always sad when you lose a member of a cast of a show that you're particularly fond of, because it chips away at our own mortality, and we've sort of lost somebody. We didn't know them, but because of their presence in our lives through TV, we felt that we know them, and I felt that all the Friends characters, I felt that I knew them and the actors. I suppose we must be thankful that we had that reunion show a couple of years ago, hosted by James Corden. It was a reunion episode of Friends. It was a reunion of the actors for the first time together on screen, I think, since the show ended. And they were all in pretty fine form. It was clear that Matthew Perry wasn't quite the man he had been, and he'd suffered from his addictions. He wasn't as quick-witted, and his voice was a bit more slurred. But that's what addictions to these things do to you. In the end, they just destroy what you were and turn you into something else. But I'm glad that they had the chance to come together and reminisce about their time in Friends and talk fondly about it. It's just a shame to think that could never happen again. And there's always been talk about a Friends reunion episode, and I'm certainly glad that's never happened, because I think that was so much about the 90s and that sort of culture of young people in New York, even though it was all filmed in Los Angeles. But it was about those people at that particular point in time. And I think it's very hard to go back to characters that you know when they were young and watch them getting older. I think it worked with Cold Feet, which was in some ways a British spin on Friends. But I think Friends was so iconic and so culturally important across the whole world. I'm really glad we didn't catch up with them as they are now, because it doesn't necessarily work with those groups of characters. We do have the new Frasier reboot on Paramount Plus at the moment. That is working because it's Frasier on his own in a new part of his life. And he's a character who can move in and out of different situations and different groups of people. But I think Friends are so closely bound with these 6 people. I don't want to see them getting old, really. I want to remember them as they were. And, of course, now we'll remember Matthew Perry as he was. So, yeah, it's terribly sad news. And I'm just very sad that he didn't... Well, I don't know what his health was like in the last few years, but I hope he overcame most of his demons and had some sort of peace with himself. But, we'll never know. But ultimately, for us as fans, we're losing a member of a comedy family that we've enjoyed over the years. So I will just leave it by saying, rest in peace, Matthew Perry. Always a great friend.